Today we're going to be smoking some baby back ribs. I have a nice slab right here. In fact, I have two, but I'm only showing, of course, one. The very first step is prepping your ribs. It's a very, very important process. You just can't take them out of the package and throw them on the grill or throw them in your smoker. It takes a little bit. So preparation is key. Part of that preparation is your working surface to work the ribs. What I've done here is take some paper towels, wet them a little bit, and you'll see why. I have a cutting board. If I didn't have a wet paper towel, the cutting board would slide around, whether it's on this stovetop surface or on a countertop. The wet keeps it in place. It's almost like it glues it down, but it's just damp. All I did was take some paper towels, take a wet sponge, and just squeeze and dribble some water over the top of it. You don't have to have the paper towel soaked, it just has to have some water. So preparation of your working surface is the very first thing. The next thing is, once you've removed your ribs from the packaging, you turn them over, kind of face down. What you see here, this white, a certain amount of it may be fat, but for the most part, it's a membrane, and the membrane has to be removed. Now, what I've done here is you can kind of see where I get my knife under it, and you can kind of, yeah, you can see. So what the goal is to try to loosen that on one end, and then you get a hold of it and it just peels back all the way. If you don't remove that, your ribs will not turn out as tender, will not turn out as well as you would like. They're still edible, but that membrane is the key to get that removed. So I've gotten the membrane released about halfway. As you can see, it's just a thin little nothing. It's a little bit difficult to try to do holding the camera in one hand and trying to do this in the other, but you're going to get the basic idea. You get it started and then you just basically peel it off. So now, after removing the membrane, the very next thing, you can put this directly on your smoker. You'll want to put some sort of a dry rub. It's recommended. I do. Not sure what happens if you don't, but a dry rub is typically always enhances the flavor. The size of smoker that I have, typically what I like to do is cut it in half, so then you work with smaller slabs. So I'll get this cut and then we'll look at getting the dry rub put on. As you can see, I have just completed putting my dry rub on the ribs. The brand that I use is Rib Rack Seasoning. It has onion powder, garlic powder, spices, sugar, paprika, a good combination thereof. And basically, I just take it. You don't have to rub it in or anything. Some people may recommend that. I find you just sprinkle it on top and do it pretty generously. As you can see, I got a pretty good coat on both. And then I just kind of let it sit for a little while and let those spices kind of melt and fuse into the meat. Now, when I say for a while, not a real long while, uh, but at this point, I'm going to go outside. I'm going to get my smoker set up. And by the time the smoker is set up and the charcoal is ready for the meat to be put on, then this will be ready to be put right on the smoker, and we'll go to that next step. One of the things that you always think about when you think of ribs are barbecued ribs. In the past, I've taken Sweet Baby Ray's honey barbecue, slathered them on towards the end. Turns out amazing. This time, I'm going to try making my own barbecue sauce, my own Kansas City style. Now, I've already pre-made it a couple of nights ago. However, I'll go through the ingredients. Um, First, start out with tomato puree. You don't want to do tomato sauce in the can because tomato sauce already has your sugar and certain spices and everything. I'm not talking about spaghetti sauce. I'm just talking about tomato sauce. So tomato puree is pretty much just cooked tomatoes cooked down into kind of a semi-chunky puree. Sorry for the gross looking can. But anyway, you get the basic idea. Some of the ingredients that I did add together, you basically just pour your tomato puree into a saucepan. You add, and I'll go through the exact measurements later in the video. I'll post the proper measurements. Salt, onion powder, garlic powder, black pepper, paprika, apple cider vinegar. Another necessity is liquid smoke. You can get a few different flavors. I prefer mesquite. This will add that smoky taste. Otherwise, it's like spicy tomato sauce. So you want to make sure that you add all those ingredients. Oh, and one other thing I did not get out is some brown sugar, molasses, and honey. Now, make sure when you get your molasses, it's like grandma's brand. You don't want to get blackstrap. Blackstrap is too bitter. You want the sweetness. But you add a certain amount of honey and molasses, and then my two secret ingredients, which are not going to be too secret after this, is a little bit of ground cinnamon, and then what goes great with pork, barbecued pork, or anything like that, are apples. So, apple butter. It's amazing. And you would think adding sugar and molasses and honey and apple butter and all those ingredients, you'd think, my goodness, this is just going to be way too sweet. It really isn't. But once you mix all of those ingredients in your saucepan, and once again, I'll give you the exact recipe that I made. You want to slow cook it for about 45 minutes. So you bring it up to a boil. You're constantly stirring it, and then once you get done with bringing it to a boil, which only takes a few minutes, then you turn it down to a simmer. And I set my timer for 45 minutes, and every 5 minutes I stirred it. Just did a quick little stir, put the lid back on, and let it simmer. And then 5 minutes later, stir it. And it'll thicken up. It'll turn out absolutely incredible. And I took an old spaghetti sauce jar, Classico, and it basically made 2 whole jars of barbecue sauce. The taste is incredible. The consistency is nice and thick. So we'll see how it turns out once I put it on the ribs themselves. But that's how to make your own homemade barbecue sauce. All right, we are outside and I have my smoker and my chimney. Now, this little chimney thing, this is pretty cool. If you've never seen one, you basically put your charcoal in the top, you put newspaper in the bottom under that grate, and then you light the newspaper and it allows the charcoal to start, and you don't have to use any kind of like lighter fluid or anything like that, uh, because sometimes that will taint the flavor of your meat and have a certain smell or taste that a lot of people don't like. This just starts it very, very simply. This one here is a little different. This, as you can see, there's room under it quite a bit for the newspaper. However, it's a little different that whenever you lift it up, it has like a trap door and all your charcoal falls out. So you can't start it. Some have a permanent one where you have to dump it, but what sometimes happens is the heat and the flames kind of come back and singe the hair on your arm. So this one, you reach in, you just lift it up, everything just drops right out inside of the smoker. The one thing you have to do is, though, you have to put it down in the smoker to get it started, because wherever you put it is where you want your charcoal to drop. There is no transporting it from point A to point B. But let me get this filled up and lit, and we'll pick it up from there. Okay, so now I've gotten my charcoal started. As you can see, it's smoking pretty good. Little flames shooting out the side of the bottom of the chimney. Um, it'll take probably about 15-20 minutes for this to really kind of get going. One thing about smoking is you have to have patience. It won't happen super quick. You do it quick, you're not going to have your smoke flavor. It's just not going to have quite the amazing results that you would like. So, as you can see, it's smoking pretty good, but that's just the charcoal igniting and the newspaper under it, getting the flame going. Now, the brand of charcoal that I use, Kingsford, is really your absolute best. However, I am using today Royal Oak. And the reason for that is I got 2 18-pound bags for like $9 or $10 at Walmart. So you can't beat that. But really, everybody likes Kingsford. It seems like it's a better charcoal. However, this is a great charcoal for about 36 pounds, 32 to 36 pounds, for like $9 or $10. Kingsford, you're going to be paying twice that. But as you can see, it's still starting. It'll smoke a little bit. What you'll basically want to do is you'll know when the charcoal is ready is when you can kind of look down into the charcoal and you can see a little bit of orange embers, or if some of the charcoal has a white edge on it where it's just starting to ignite. Oh, and one other thing, do not ever use like the match light, where it's already where you just have to light a a briquette, one of the charcoal briquettes, and it starts. It's super easy. However, you're going to have flames shooting out like a jet engine about 6 feet up out of this chimney if you do. And the way I know that is I did it a long time ago. It was like an afterburner from a jet engine, and it was ridiculous. Um, but anyway, just plain old good charcoal is the best way to go. So at this point, I'm going to get to work on my water pan. Um, Water pan is very, very important. It adds moisture to your meat and keeps it moist. Just got an eye hit from the smoke. But anyway, water pan is very, very important. And we'll pick it up whenever the charcoal's ready. When setting up your water pan, some people can put just cold tap water directly into your water pan in your smoker. Of course, that means that your heat from your smoker and your charcoal has to heat that water to cause it to start evaporating and starting to kind of steam that meat. You don't really want to do that because you don't want to take away any heat, none whatsoever. So what I've done here is I'm actually heating the water, and I've made a little bit of tea. I had some old uh, pumpkin spice tea bags, and I added it to some warm tap water right out of the faucet, and then added a little bit of apple cider vinegar. So that'll be my mixture. It'll be a little bit more of a spice to it. Really won't negatively taint the flavor. I'm not sure if it even will do anything for flavor, but it sure doesn't hurt any. So this will go into the water pan. The grates will go over the top. The meat will go on the grates. And by the time everything is all done and smoked, this will all be gone entirely. All right, we're back out at the smoker. As you can see, we'll get kind of close. You can see some orange down in there, and the charcoal is turning white. I have my water pan, or my water. My water pan is over there. Now, this is when it becomes, I always use an oven mitt because this can get pretty hot. Let's see if I can do this and keep it on camera. Yeah, it's hot. As you can see, the trap door opens. There's all your charcoal. Set this over out of the way. Take my water pan. As you can see, there's lots of charcoal in there. In fact, I think I'll probably add a little bit more. And pour my water in, which is steaming from partially boiling. And then we'll get the meat put on. I've now got my ribs on the smoker. That smoke that you see is actually from a little bit of additional charcoal that I added. I also have some pork tenderloin that is smoking down under. Otherwise, I would have put all the ribs at the bottom. But they'll still cook. They'll turn out amazing. And the very next step is to add your wood chips. Actually, not wood chips, wood chunks. Wood chips burn too fast. That's for a short smoke. I want to do these longer. So this will be wood chunks. And I prefer mesquite. It has like the best flavor in my opinion. Some people like hickory, apple, pecan, whatever. I like mesquite. And one thing I just have to do is move some of these ribs over a little bit so then the lid will close. See if I can drag it without touching them. They're not hot yet. There. I'll tuck this in. There. But they'll smoke and they will turn out absolutely outstandingly amazing. So this will be the last time we'll see them until they're ready for the next step. The brand that I have is a Brinkman Smoke and Grill. They're discontinued. I believe that the company went out of business, but you can find them sometimes on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist, Let Go, OfferUp. This one, brand new, was about 160, 170 bucks. I got it for 40 bucks on Facebook Marketplace. One other thing I also did add, and it was recommended from other videos that I've watched, is to add additional temperature gauges, which I also did. The original, everybody says isn't great, so I added a couple of my own. And that's a little trap door that we'll be throwing the wood chips in just a moment, and we'll get this thing to chugging like a locomotive. Another thing I'd like to add, once I've added the wood chips, as you can see, it's really starting to smoke. Some of the smoke is coming out, of course, around the edges, as you can see, but a lot of it is being contained inside the smoker, and that raw meat is just absorbing all of that smoke and all that flavor, and that's where you get your really good flavor, barbecue flavor from. So once again, 3 hours smoking, 2 hours wrapped up in tinfoil back on the smoker just to get it to tenderize and moisturize, and then 1 more hour after that, taken out, put back on the grill, on the smoker, with barbecue sauce of your choice. But once again, I'm going to be using my own homemade, and we'll see how it turns out. So we are back now. It's only been a couple of minutes, and I am going to add my Kingsford Mesquite smoking chunks. I have to do this because this is really hot. There you can kind of see that tenderloin that's down in there. There's your charcoal. Now when I'm talking about chunks, I'm talking about wood chunks. So we throw a few in. There's probably a better way. But you basically got some more smoke in my eye. Basically just put your wood chunks straight in, and you get this baby to smoking. And I'll probably add wood chips probably 3 or 4 times over the next hour, hour and a half. The process that we're going to use is called a 3-2-1. Basically smoke them for 3 hours. 2 hours, you take the ribs and the meat out, you wrap it in tin foil or put in a little foil pan, wrap it up, put it back in the smoker to cook for 2 more hours so it kind of steams in its own juices, and then you finally take it out, slather it with barbecue sauce, and 1 last hour on the smoker just to add that additional little bit of smoke, a little bit of heat, just to get that barbecue sauce nice and sticky. But I'm going to be closing this up. I'm going to throw a few more chunks in, and we'll go from there. Another thing I'd like to add, once I've added the wood chips As you can see, it's really starting to smoke. Some of the smoke is coming out, of course, around the edges, as you can see, but a lot of it is being contained inside the smoker, and that raw meat is just absorbing all of that smoke and all that flavor, and that's where you get your really good flavor, barbecue flavor from. So once again, 3 hours smoking, 2 hours wrapped up in tinfoil back on the smoker just to get it to tenderize and moisturize, and then 1 more hour after that, taken out, put back on the grill, on the smoker, with barbecue sauce of your choice. But once again, I'm going to be using my own homemade, and we'll see how it turns out. At this time, about 3 hours have passed. It's time to take the ribs out and put them in this pan. It's basically just a little aluminum foil pan. I line it with tin foil so then you can reuse it a few times. What I have in there is apple cider or apple juice, and apple cider vinegar, and just a couple of sprinkles of cinnamon. And this is going to be the first time we all will see how the ribs look. So let's just hope and pray that they turn the way they were supposed to. And as we look at them, they look absolutely incredible. Incredible. So what I'll do is I'll take all these out, place them in that mixture, put a piece of tin foil over it, and put it back in the smoker. So I've placed these ribs in the pan, as I said I was going to, and I'm going to cover them, put them back on the grill. There are the other tenderloins, which I'm going to be pulling off. I won't be doing the same process because they should be all cooked through just perfect. If you look way down, again, don't know, there's a little bit of water left, and the tea bags are swelled up real huge. But anyway, we're going to wrap these up and put them back on the smoker. And this is going to be for another 2 hours while they steam and tenderize, and then we'll have 1 more hour after that, so 3 more hours to go. It's been about 2 more hours, so we're at the point where I'm going to remove the ribs from their pan, put some barbecue sauce on them, and put them back on the grate to finish for the last hour. So here is the unveiling. As you can see, the bone has pulled away from the meat quite a bit. That's one of the keys that it's done. In there we still have plenty of juice. There's a lot of juice and probably a little bit of the liquid that I started out with. But what we'll do next is just, I got my barbecue sauce, put it in the jar, take my little paintbrush and paint it on once I put it right back on the grill. Alright, so here we are. This starts the final hour. I got all the barbecue sauce spread nice over the whole slab of ribs, only on the top side. I'll put the lid back on for that final hour. And probably the one thing I will do is I kind of want to get the coals kind of cranked up a little bit, still hot, but I want to get in there and kind of move them around a little bit and kind of get that whole process of smoking kind of started up a little bit again. We'll close it, and now for the final hour. And as you can see, temperature gauge, it's low on smoke for the top. Here it's a little bit different, but it's still within that range. The meat's pretty much done. All we have to do is now just wait that final hour and get to eating. The final hour has passed. Now for the unveiling. These should be absolutely incredible. They smoked just a little bit more. The barbecue sauce kind of thickened up just a little bit, and they should be moist, tender, and loaded with flavor and nearly fall off the bone. You don't want them to fall off the bone, even though that sounds like a great thing, because then they just like fall apart. But anyway, you can use tongs to get them up, but then you kind of mess up your barbecue sauce. So I just use a spatula, and you just scoop right under. Make sure that you don't dump it off. And there you have your ribs. So 6 hours from beginning to end, and amazing, delicious, outstanding ribs.